Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd love to know what you think. Every comment helps me make the next story better. Subscribe to stay tuned. So there I was, standing in a corner of the Pennsylvanian's grand ballroom, watching my wife transform into someone who seemed to forget I was her husband and not just her transportation for the evening. The annual Pittsburgh Arts Foundation Charity Gala. Christine had been talking about it for weeks, planning her outfit, rehearsing conversation topics, studying the guest list like it was a military operation. I'd learned years ago that these events weren't about us attending together. They were about her attending while I provided the ride there and back. Christine spotted her social circle the moment we walked in. Her face lit up in a way it hadn't for me in years. She touched my arm briefly, a gesture that looked affectionate from the outside but felt purely functional, and said, "I'm going to go say hello. You'll be fine, right?" It wasn't really a question. I watched her glide across the marble floor toward Pamela Hutchins, Gregory Vance, and Deborah Sterling, the holy trinity of her social ambitions. Pamela held court in their group, old money personified, the kind of woman who could make you feel poor just by looking at you. Gregory was the intellectual type, always ready with some psychological observation that made him feel superior. Deborah was newer to the group, still working hard to prove she belonged. Christine reached them and immediately became someone different. Louder, more animated, laughing at things that weren't particularly funny. I recognized the performance. I'd been watching it for 15 years. I made my way to the bar and ordered a bourbon. The bartender smiled sympathetically. He'd probably seen 1,000 guys like me at these events, husbands who showed up because they were supposed to but weren't really part of the show. 15 years. Somewhere along the way, I'd become the guy who stands in corners at parties, useful for getting his wife there and home again, but largely invisible in between. When had that happened? I could remember early years when Christine would seek me out at events like this, when we'd share private jokes about the pretentious crowd, when we were a team. Now I was just part of her logistical planning. I nursed my drink and watched. Christine was in full bloom now, gesturing dramatically as she told some story. Her friends hung on every word. She belonged with them in a way she never seemed to belong with me anymore. About 20 minutes passed before I made my way over with drinks for Christine and myself. I figured I should at least play the dutiful husband role I'd been assigned. Pamela noticed me first. "Oh, Raymond. Still playing bartender, I see. How helpful of you." Her tone made helpful sound like a character flaw. I handed Christine her wine and smiled at Pamela. Someone has to make sure Christine stays hydrated during all this important networking. Can't have her voice giving out before she's made all the right impressions. Christine's face flushed slightly, but she didn't say anything. Just gave me a tight smile and turned back to her conversation. Pamela waved a dismissive hand and continued talking about some gallery opening. I stood there for a moment, literally holding my drink while they talked around me. Not to me, around me, like I was a piece of furniture that happened to be in the way. That's when Gregory decided to join us. He had this way of studying people that made you feel like a specimen under a microscope. "Raymond," he said, drawing out my name. "Fascinating watching you tonight. Classic supportive spouse archetype. Nearly invisible, but dutifully present. Do you ever feel, I don't know, superfluous at these things?" I looked at him over my glass. Superfluous? No more than anyone who knows these events are more about being seen than actually doing good. At least I'm honest about my role here. Christine laughed nervously. "Ray's just not a social butterfly like some of us." She said it to the group, not to me, apologizing for my existence. That told me everything I needed to know. Dinner was announced, and we moved to our assigned table. Christine made sure to sit between Pamela and Deborah, leaving me on the end next to Gregory. The seating arrangement wasn't an accident. As we settled in, Pamela leaned toward Christine with that conspiratorial smile of hers. "You know, Christine, you're so vibrant tonight. It's wonderful seeing you in your element. Some people just shine in social settings while others, well, they prefer the shadows, don't they?" She glanced at me when she said shadows. I took a bite of my salad. Shadows have their advantages. Better sight lines. You see things from the edges that people miss when they're too busy performing for each other. Christine's hand tightened on her fork. "Can you just not tonight?" Not, "Please don't be rude to my friends." Not, "Let's keep this pleasant." Just a request for me to not exist in any way that created friction. I was supposed to be decorative and silent. The appetizer course came and went. The conversation flowed around me like I was a rock in a stream. They talked about people I didn't know, events I hadn't attended, social dynamics I wasn't part of. Christine contributed enthusiastically, never once trying to include me or bridge the gap. Deborah eventually turned her attention to Christine, clearly trying to earn points with the group. Christine, how do you balance everything? Your social commitments, your causes, your home life? She said home life, the way you'd say dental work. Something unpleasant but necessary. Christine waved her hand. Oh, Ray handles most of the domestic stuff. Frees me up for the important work. He's very accommodating. Accommodating. That word again. I set down my fork. Accommodating. That's one word for it. Invisible might be another. Convenient definitely fits. Christine's eyes snapped to mine. What's that supposed to mean? The table went quiet. Even the people at nearby tables seemed to sense the shift in atmosphere. It means exactly what I said. I've spent 15 years accommodating your social calendar, your ambitions, your need to be seen with the right people. And somewhere along the way, I became a convenience instead of a partner. Gregory cleared his throat. Raymond, surely you understand Christine needs room to flourish. Some men struggle with successful wives who have their own identities. I turned to him slowly. Identity is fine. I'm all for it. But when your identity requires someone else to have less of one, that's not success. That's just selfishness with better PR. Christine's face went pale, then red. That's enough. You're being dramatic. Pamela nodded. He does seem a bit sensitive this evening. And just like that, I saw the full pattern. This wasn't new. This had been building for years. The dismissals, the apologies for my existence, the way she lit up for them but dimmed around me. I'd been erased so gradually I hadn't noticed until tonight when they said it out loud. The main course arrived. Nobody touched their food. Christine spoke to her friends as if I wasn't sitting 3 feet away. He's been like this lately. Everything's an issue. I can't even enjoy an evening out without him making it about his feelings. I stared at her. You're talking about me like I'm not sitting right here. Well, you're not really participating, are you? You're just here, like you always are. Present, but not really part of anything. Something clicked into place. A clarity so sharp, it was almost physical. She was right. I wasn't really part of anything. Because she'd spent years editing me out of her life, keeping me around for utility while erasing me as a person. Gregory tried to intervene. Christine, perhaps you two should discuss this at home. This is hardly the venue. Actually, I interrupted. This seems like the perfect venue. Public enough that the truth can't be repackaged later. Tell me, Gregory, how's your marriage doing? Still spending every weekend at the office to avoid going home to someone you can't stand, but won't leave because it would damage your carefully cultivated image? His face went white. Apparently, I'd hit closer to the mark than I'd intended. Pamela jumped in. That's incredibly rude. Rude? Let's talk about rude. Rude is spending an entire evening treating your spouse like hired help. Rude is apologizing for your husband's existence to people who wouldn't know authentic connection if it bit them. Christine's voice got cold. Ray, stop. Stop what? Stop noticing? Stop having feelings about being treated like a prop? Stop existing in ways that inconvenience your social performance? She turned to her friends with exasperation written across her face. See what I deal with. He can't handle me having a life outside our marriage. It's exhausting. A life outside our marriage. You don't have a life outside our marriage. You have a life that doesn't include our marriage. There's a difference. Pamela reached over and touched Christine's hand. Christine, darling, you don't have to tolerate this. You're right, Christine said. I don't. The table had completely turned against me now. I could feel it. They'd closed ranks, decided I was the problem, the inconvenient element disrupting their perfect evening. Deborah chimed in. Maybe you should just let her enjoy the evening. Why are you making everything so difficult? Difficult? I'm being difficult for not wanting to be invisible. You're being difficult for making your insecurity everyone else's problem, Gregory said, having recovered from my earlier observation. Christine laughed. Actually laughed. Exactly. Thank you, Greg. At least someone gets it. And there it was. She was laughing. Not at a joke, but at me. At my audacity to want basic respect from my own wife. Her friends were the audience she'd been performing for all along, and I was just the punchline she'd been setting up all evening. Pamela leaned back in her chair, studying Christine with approval. Christine, you deserve someone who can keep up with you intellectually and socially. Someone who enhances your life instead of anchoring it. Christine nodded enthusiastically. God, yes. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be with someone who actually understood ambition. I should have been hurt. Maybe I would be later. But right now, I just felt clear. Ambition. Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks more like desperation dressed up in expensive clothes and fake connections. Christine's eyes flashed. See, this is exactly what I mean. You can't handle me being successful. You're not successful. You're just loud about wanting to appear successful. There's a difference. Gregory shook his head with theatrical disappointment. That's an ugly attitude, Raymond. Classic case of male fragility threatened by female achievement. Deborah nodded along. My ex-husband was the same way. Had to make everything about him. Christine, honestly, Pamela said, life's too short to deal with this kind of negativity. Christine straightened in her chair, energized by their support. You're absolutely right. I looked at my wife. Really looked at her. The woman sitting across from me was a stranger. Or maybe I was finally seeing her clearly for the first time in years. So what exactly am I doing here tonight, Christine? What's my actual purpose? You're here because you're my husband. Am I? Because for the last 3 hours, I felt more like your driver who stuck around. Pamela waved her hand. Oh, this is getting uncomfortable. Christine, you don't need to defend yourself to him. You're right, Christine said. I don't. Then don't. Just tell me the truth for once. What am I to you? Christine's mouth opened and closed. She looked frustrated, cornered. Fine. You want the truth? You're fine. You're stable. You're there. But you're not. She stopped herself. Go on, I said quietly. Finish it. Deborah interjected. You don't have to explain yourself to him. Gregory nodded. Raymond, you're making a scene. I'm making a scene by asking my wife to acknowledge my existence. Christine stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. The noise drew attention from nearby tables. You know what your problem is? You're too sensitive. You always have been. I can't even have a conversation with my friends without you making it about you. I stood to face her. I'm making it about me because you spent the evening making me disappear. God, do you hear yourself? This is why I don't include you in things. You just bring everything down. You make everything heavy and complicated when it could be light and fun. So I should just shut up and smile while you treat me like I don't matter? Christine threw her napkin on the table. Her voice rose loud enough that half the ballroom could hear. If you don't like how I talk to you, leave. The words hung in the air. People at 3 nearby tables had stopped eating and were watching us now. What? I said. She laughed. Actually laughed, looking at her friends for support. They were nodding, backing her up. You heard me. If you don't like how I talk to you, leave. Nobody's forcing you to be here. Nobody's forcing you to stay. There was a challenge in her voice. A certainty that I would back down like I always did. That I would apologize and sit down and shut up and let her continue her performance. She thought she held all the cards because she always had. I stood there for a long moment, feeling the eyes of the room on us. Then something inside me settled into place. You know what? You're absolutely right. Christine's smile got wider. Finally. So can we just drop this and enjoy the rest of the night? No. I meant you're right that I should leave. The smile faltered. What? You told me to leave if I don't like how you talk to me. I don't like it. So I'm leaving. Don't be ridiculous. Sit down. You literally just told me to leave. In front of all these people. So that's what I'm doing. Pamela reached out. Raymond, Christine didn't mean. She meant exactly what she said. For once, she was completely honest. She doesn't value me. She doesn't respect me. And she just made it clear in front of a room full of people that I'm disposable. Christine's face went pale. Ray, stop. You're overreacting. Overreacting? You told me to leave. While laughing. I didn't mean literally. Then what did you mean? Because it sounded pretty literal to me. Gregory stood up, trying to take control. Let's all just calm down. I am calm. I'm clearer than I've been in 15 years. My wife just told me to leave if I don't like how she talks to me. She was laughing when she said it. She thought it was funny. Well, let's see how funny it is when she realizes I actually did it. Christine grabbed my arm. You're not leaving. We came together. I removed her hand gently but firmly. We came together. But you've made it clear all night that we're not actually together. So I'm correcting that discrepancy. Her voice cracked slightly. Everyone's watching. Let them watch. Let them see what happens when you tell someone to leave and they actually have enough self-respect to do it. Enjoy the rest of your evening, Christine. I'm sure your friends will keep you company. That's what you wanted anyway, right? An evening without me bringing everything down? Ray, please. You made your choice when you told me to leave. You laughed about it. Your friends laughed about it. Now you get to live with it. Pamela's voice called after me. He's bluffing. He'll be back. I didn't turn around. I walked through the grand ballroom, past tables full of people in expensive clothes pretending they weren't watching, past the orchestra that had stopped playing, past the servers frozen with trays in their hands. I walked out the main doors of the Pennsylvanian and into the cool night air. 15 years. 15 years I'd spent shrinking myself to fit into her idea of a convenient husband. And it took her laughing while telling me to leave to finally understand that I'd disappeared so completely, she didn't even register me as a person anymore. Well, I was done being invisible. I drove home in complete silence. No music, no radio, just the sound of the engine and my own thoughts. I felt lighter than I had in months, maybe years. Like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't realize was there until I finally set it down. My phone started buzzing around 11:47. I glanced at it at a red light and saw Christine's name. Then another message. And another. By the time I pulled into our driveway, there were 11 messages waiting. I sat in the car for a moment, engine off, just breathing. Our house looked different somehow, like I was seeing it from the outside for the first time. This building that was supposed to represent our life together now just looked like a place where two people happened to live. I checked the messages. This is childish. You're embarrassing me. Everyone is staring. Come back here right now. I can't believe you're doing this. All anger. All about her embarrassment. Not one word of acknowledgement about what she'd actually said or done. I pocketed my phone and went inside. Made myself a drink in the kitchen and went to my home office. The room that used to be mine until it slowly became just another storage space for Christine's social obligations. Boxes of charity event materials stacked in the corner. Her extra shoes under the desk. My phone buzzed continuously on the desk. I picked it up and scrolled through the new messages. Okay, fine, maybe I shouldn't have said it like that. Can we just talk about this like adults? You're overreacting, but we can discuss it at home. I didn't mean it the way you took it. Just turn around. Bargaining now. The anger had burned through fast when she realized I wasn't coming back. More messages came in while I watched. Please answer your phone. I'm sorry, okay? You're really doing this? Where are you? Ray, please. My phone started ringing. Christine's name lit up the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Voicemail again. I turned my attention to the bookshelf and pulled out our wedding album. Flipped through the photos of two people who looked happy. Young. Full of possibility. I tried to remember when things had changed. It wasn't one moment. It was 1,000 small moments. 1,000 times when I'd made myself smaller so she could feel bigger. 1,000 accommodations that turned into erasure. The messages kept coming. I was up to 31 now. How am I supposed to get home? You took the car. This isn't funny. I had to call Pamela for a ride. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Everyone is talking about us. She had to call Pamela for a ride. The woman who'd spent all evening encouraging her to dismiss me. Perfect. Let her new best friend see what happens when you take someone for granted. I poured another drink and looked at more photos. Noticed how in the early pictures, we were always touching. Holding hands, arms around each other, standing close. In later photos, we stood farther apart. In the most recent ones, we looked like strangers who happened to be in the same frame. I set the album aside and opened my laptop. Our shared calendar stared back at me from the screen. I scrolled through the past 6 months, really looking at it for the first time. Christine's events were in purple, mine in blue. The screen was a sea of purple. Gallery openings, charity brunches, networking dinners, cocktail parties, museum benefits. Every weekend booked, most weeknights spoken for. My blue entries were sparse. A handful of work obligations. Nothing social. I clicked on random events. Dinner at the Vanderbilt with Pamela and guests. No mention of me. Arts Council Gala. I was listed as +1. Not Ray. Not husband. +1. Like I was some generic accessory she could swap out if someone better came along. I scrolled back further. A year ago. 2 years. The pattern was there, just less obvious. Her events increasing, mine decreasing. Our couple friends dropping off the calendar completely. When was the last time we'd had dinner with anyone who knew us both? I couldn't remember. There was a note in her calendar from 3 months ago. Talk to her about schedule. She'd never talked to me about any schedule. She'd just kept filling the calendar with her life, and I'd kept accommodating it. Kept making myself smaller to fit around the edges of her social ambitions. I closed the laptop and rubbed my eyes. The evidence had been right there all along. I just hadn't wanted to see it. My phone rang with an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello. Oh, so you do answer your phone. Pamela's voice dripped with disdain. What the hell is wrong with you? Your wife is sitting here crying her eyes out, and you just disappeared like some kind of coward. Real mature, running away from a conversation. I took a sip of my drink. Running away from a conversation. Is that what you call what happened back there? Look, maybe we got a little carried away with the teasing, but that's no reason to throw a tantrum and abandon your wife. Teasing? You spent an hour systematically attacking my character with my wife's full participation and encouragement. Then she told me to pay the bill and leave if I couldn't handle it. But I'm the one throwing a tantrum? She didn't mean it like that, and you know it. No, I don't know it. What I know is that she meant it exactly like that. And now that there are consequences, suddenly everyone wants to pretend it was all just harmless fun. Pamela's voice got sharper. You're being ridiculous. She's your wife. You don't just walk away from your wife over some jokes. You're right. I don't walk away over jokes. I walk away when my wife makes it clear that I'm nothing more than a wallet with legs whose only purpose is to pay for her entertainment while she and her friends use me as target practice. That's not. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to hang up this phone and never contact me again. My wife made her choice tonight when she chose your approval over her husband's dignity. Now she gets to live with that choice. You can't be serious. She's falling apart here. Then maybe you and your friends can comfort her. You got what you wanted, right? You proved that she values your opinions more than her marriage. Congratulations. I hung up and immediately blocked the number. My phone rang again almost instantly. I recognized this number. Christine's sister, Heather. She was the reasonable one in Christine's family. We'd always gotten along well. I debated not answering, but Heather had never been part of Christine's social circle games. Hello, Heather. Ray, what the hell happened tonight? Christine called me from Pamela's phone, absolutely hysterical. She says you walked out on her at the gala over nothing. Over nothing? Is that what she said? She said you two were having dinner, you got upset about something, and you just left. She had to get a ride home from her friends. She's devastated. I took a slow breath. Did she tell you what she said to me? She said you were fighting and she got frustrated. Ask her to tell you her exact words. Word for word. There was a pause. I could hear muffled voices in the background. Then Heather came back on the line. She said she told you if you didn't like how she was talking to you, you could leave. While laughing, in front of her friends, at a charity gala, after spending 3 hours treating me like I was invisible. The silence on the other end stretched out. Then Heather's voice came back, quieter. Oh God, Ray, she actually said that? She did. And when I took her advice and left, suddenly it became me overreacting. I didn't know. She made it sound like you just exploded out of nowhere. That's the thing, Heather. To her, it probably did seem like nowhere. Because she stopped seeing me so long ago that she genuinely didn't realize what she was doing. I've spent 15 years shrinking myself to fit around her social life. Tonight, she finally said out loud what's been true for years. I'm only welcome when I'm convenient. What are you going to do? I'm going to call a lawyer in the morning. This isn't something that can be fixed with an apology. This is who she's become. Or maybe this is who she always was, and I just kept making excuses for it. Ray, I'm so sorry. I always thought you two were solid. So did I. Turns out we were solid as long as I kept playing my assigned role. The moment I stopped, the whole thing fell apart. We talked for a few more minutes. Heather promised she wouldn't tell Christine we'd spoken, said she needed time to process this. When we hung up, I felt a strange sense of validation. Someone outside the situation could see it too. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. Then I blocked Christine's number. If she wanted to communicate, she could do it through lawyers. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. Different number. I answered it, expecting another friend. Please don't hang up. Christine's voice, calling from someone else's phone. I know you're angry, but we need to talk about this. We had 15 years to talk about this. Tonight, you made it clear there's nothing left to discuss. That's not true. I love you. This is just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. You told me to leave in front of a restaurant full of people after sitting quietly while your friends spend an hour explaining everything that's wrong with me. What part of that did I misunderstand? The line went quiet for a long moment. Then her voice came back, smaller. I was just frustrated. You were being so confrontational with my friends. Confrontational for defending myself against their attacks. They weren't attacks. They were just being themselves. And you took everything so personally. And there it was. The real truth. Her friends being themselves meant attacking me. And me being myself meant taking it quietly. That was the dynamic she'd expected. You're right, I said. They were being themselves. And so was I when I walked out. The difference is I'm not asking anyone else to change who they are to make me comfortable. I hung up and turned off my phone completely. The house phone rang 30 seconds later. I'd forgotten we even still had a landline. Apparently, Christine had remembered it in her desperation. I walked over and unplugged it from the wall. The ringing stopped mid-chime. In the silence that followed, I heard my laptop ping with an email notification. Against my better judgment, I checked it. Gregory Vance's name appeared in my inbox. Subject line, a psychological perspective. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won out. Raymond, I hope you'll forgive the intrusion, but as someone trained in behavioral psychology, I feel compelled to reach out. What we witnessed tonight was a textbook case of emotional dysregulation triggered by perceived social inadequacy. Your response to Christine's very reasonable request for space was disproportionate and suggests deeper issues with self-worth. Have you considered that your extreme reaction might stem from your own insecurities rather than anything Christine actually did? Successful partners support each other's growth, even when it means stepping back and allowing the other person to shine. Your need to make tonight about you rather than celebrating Christine's social success speaks to a fundamental imbalance in your self-perception. I'd be happy to recommend some excellent therapists who specialize in male identity issues and marital adjustment. There's no shame in seeking help when we find ourselves unable to cope with our partner's achievements. Best regards, Gregory. I read it twice, then started laughing. The sound echoed strangely in the empty office. He'd actually written an email diagnosing me with insecurity and inadequacy, framing Christine's public dismissal as my inability to handle her success. The gaslighting was almost impressive in its audacity. I hit reply. Gregory, thank you for your amateur diagnosis. However, I think you've misidentified the patient. Let me offer a counter perspective from someone who isn't trying to impress the woman he's clearly attracted to. What we witnessed tonight wasn't emotional dysregulation. It was someone finally enforcing a boundary after 15 years of having them eroded. Christine didn't make a reasonable request for space. She told me to leave, while laughing, after 3 hours of treating me like furniture. You call it her social success. I call it her choosing to humiliate her husband for entertainment value. But I understand why you'd frame it your way. It's much easier to pathologize my response than acknowledge that you and your friends spent the evening being casually cruel. As for therapy recommendations, I appreciate the concern. But I'm not the one who needs help. I'm the one who finally got healthy enough to walk away from a toxic situation. You might want to reflect on why you're so invested in keeping me in one. Also, regarding your own marriage that you stay away from on weekends, you might want to look into therapists who specialize in avoidant attachment and marriages of convenience. Just a thought. Best regards, Ray. I hit send before I could second-guess it, then blocked his email address too. I made it to the guest room around 2 in the morning. Lay down in the bed we'd bought 3 years ago for when Christine's mother visited. It was comfortable, quiet, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, I wasn't wondering if I'd said something wrong, done something wrong, been something wrong. Christine thought tonight was about one comment. One throwaway line that she'd probably already convinced herself she hadn't really meant. But it wasn't about tonight. Tonight was just the moment when she said out loud what had been building for years. The slow erasure of my personhood in favor of my function. I wasn't angry. That was the surprising part. I was just clear. Crystal clear. The kind of clarity that comes when you finally stop lying to yourself about what you've been accepting. She'd told me to leave, laughed about it, and now she was shocked that I'd actually done it. But she hadn't seen me in years. Not really. She'd seen utility. Convenience. A husband-shaped appliance that showed up when needed and disappeared when inconvenient. Well, I'd finally taken her advice. I'd left, and I wasn't coming back. I woke up at 7 to sunlight streaming through the guest room window. Lay there for a moment, taking stock. I felt rested, calm, clear-headed in a way I hadn't felt in years. I turned my phone back on. 73 messages. I didn't read them. Instead, I called my brother Tom. He answered on the second ring. Ray? It's 7 in the morning on a Sunday. You okay? I left Christine last night. Silence. Then what happened? I gave him the short version. The gala, the dismissal, the public humiliation, the unforgivable line. When I finished, Tom was quiet for a long moment. You know, he finally said, Sarah and I were talking about you two just last week. We hadn't seen you guys in months. Every time we invited you over, Christine was busy with some event or another. I didn't realize you'd noticed. Ray, we all noticed. You stopped coming to family things. When you did show up, you were always alone. You made excuses for her, said she was busy with important work. But man, you looked exhausted. Like you were carrying something heavy. I was. So what now? Lawyer. Real estate agent. I'm done. Do you need a place to stay? No, I'm good. I slept in the guest room. She can have the master until we figure out the house. You sure you're okay? You sound really calm about this. I am calm. That's the weird part. I thought I'd be angry or sad or something. But I just feel clear. Like I can finally breathe. Tom laughed. That's because you've been slowly suffocating for years, and you finally came up for air. Listen, you need anything, you call me. Lawyer recommendations, place to crash, someone to help you move your stuff out. Whatever you need. Thanks, Tom. And Ray, I'm proud of you. It takes guts to walk away from something that's killing you slowly. Most people just stay and accept it. We hung up, and I felt steadier somehow. My own family had seen what was happening. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I was finally reacting appropriately. I made coffee in the kitchen, the familiar routine grounding me. The house was quiet. Christine's heels from last night sat by the front door. Her purse on the hall table. Evidence of her return, but no sign of her yet. I was halfway through my first cup when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Christine appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in last night's dress, makeup smeared, hair disheveled. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. We stared at each other across the kitchen. I think we should talk about last night, she finally said. Testing the waters. Trying to figure out where we stood. I agree. You first. She took a breath, clearly having rehearsed this. I may have said some things I didn't mean. In front of people. And I'm sorry you were hurt by that. Sorry I was hurt. Not sorry for what you said. You're sorry I was hurt. Not sorry for what you said. Her jaw tightened. Fine. I'm sorry I told you to leave. Happy? No. Because you're not sorry you said it. You're sorry I actually did it. There's a difference. Her eyes filled with tears. So what now? You're just going to hold this over me forever? No. I'm going to start making phone calls. Today. First to a lawyer, then to a real estate agent. You told me to leave. So I'm leaving. Permanently. Her face went white. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. You spent 15 years teaching me that I don't matter. Last night, you finally said it out loud. Thank you for the clarity. I walked out of the kitchen, leaving Christine standing there with her mouth open, finally understanding that the person she'd been barking at was actually gone. And the joke, it turned out, had disappeared pretty fast. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.